but there's actually a historical person that a lot of people think was actually the originator of the Faust idea. Faust is the one who sells his soul to the devil in exchange for.
I actually used one of his quotes for one of my Instagram captions. I'll tell you what his quote was.
Yes?
Okay, everything is hard before it's easy. John Wolfgang von whatever his name is.
Goethe. Goethe is what everybody calls him, and you could forget about the Johann Wolfgang von Goethe part, because that's a whole lot to remember, you know. But so if you think of him as the hub, by the way, Andrea Wolf in her book talks about one of the wives, because one of the wives married 3 of the people that were in this circle. This one died, then she married the next one, and then she married the next one. So you might actually find that she was pretty much the real hub.
A homeopath.
And it's actually fascinating the way Andrea starts the book, The Magnificent Rebels, off. She points out that since she was, God bless you, on the side of Napoleon in Germany, right? And she's arrested and thrown into jail while she's pregnant, you know, and the jails back then were not, plush, nice places, as you can imagine. So pretty horrible existence, but she survived. She got out. Her friends got her out by bribing, basically, people, and then she had the baby, and fine, and then married. I think one of the authors, and Schiller, maybe, I forget which one, but three of them. So her full name is pretty complex, because she kept adding the names. She got the names. She just, I have another name. Thank you. Okay, so let's try to figure out where Hegel is really going to respond to Kant, and his main book that makes him famous is the Phenomenology. Remember, we were talking about phenomena. What is phenomena, right? That's their word for all the experience that we have. It's lit up by our fane, our lantern, right? So we're aware of everything that our senses light our consciousness up about, right? And so when we're studying phenomena, it's the phenomenology, right? The study of the phenomena. And Kant says there's certain things that we can transcend this limit in order to build the metaphysics. We have to be able to structure our experience a certain way, because how else do you explain the common sense experience of reality, right? But he says so there must be an ego that's outside of our phenomena. There must be the thing in itself that's outside of our phenomena. And there has to be time and space, and all of those things are structuring our experience, and they're coming from our minds, right? Says Kant. But we can't actually know them, says Kant. Well, Hegel and his group of fellow philosophers all think that's nonsense. If we're aware that it's there, then it's phenomena. And so all of the limitations that Kant thinks we have about we can't really know ourselves is an error on Kant's part. We do know ourselves. But what is it that we know? Well, in the phenomenology of Geist, which is the German word, Geist, that's just like our word ghost. You think of it? I think that's where our word ghost comes from, is the German word Geist. But it doesn't mean just like ghost, like Casper the Friendly Ghost. No, it's our spirit, or our mind, actually, both of those together. And that's why in the third test, my one question about Kant is, how does Kant's philosophy lead to psychology? And then my next question is, how does Hegel's philosophy lead to modern sociology, really? How does that get explained, really? And, you know, because sociology is defined as the study of people in groups, right? Well, what happens as we grow up? And in the phenomenology of mind or spirit, as it's actually translated in both ways by different translators, right? You start off as a baby. And as a baby, what do you know? You know, well, Hegel, of course, is going to try to describe what a baby's like, you know, as the baby is growing up, right? But at a certain point, the baby suddenly is able to say no to his mother, right? Yeah, we've all had this, you know, the darn little kid, you know, mom says, come on over here, and he goes, no. And you go, shh, no, get over here. No, you don't do that. You're not allowed to. That's the way we used to raise, people. But now we had this kind of turmoil about, no smacking the child. Because what you're doing when you smack the child is you teach the child, did you hit your sister? No, I didn't hit my sister. Never hit anybody, ever again. What you're doing is, smacking people. That's a good thing. No, don't do that.
Have you ever smacked anybody?
Yes.
It's such a nice feeling.
No,
yes,
it's horrible.
No, it's
It's horrible. And of course now my the people I smacked are bigger than me. And that's I'm waiting now for me to get to the point where they start smacking me around. Oh, get over here. Don't teach them that way. We grew out of that, right? Parents are not supposed to use force anymore. They're supposed to explain to the child, 2-year-old child. When your parents say, come over here, it's important for you to come over here. The child goes, no.
Well, if there's a specific age, you're not supposed to put them at, but you're supposed to wait until they can recognize right and wrong, and then you start to feel it.
I don't know. I'm not sure that we're allowed to smack children anymore. You have to check with your local social worker.
Better ways to teach them.
Yeah. Electric shock. No.
I think you can still do the timeout, but say like they're 2 years old, you only do timeout for 2 minutes. I don't even know if you do timeout at 2 years old, but I would have to
Okay, but I never even understood the point of timeout because did it work at all?
You do, but you only do it for how old they are.
So with timeouts, the only really benefit you gain is you're removing them from that situation. It's not really, you don't want to teach them isolation, because then they isolate with something bad. But you want to remove them from the situation.
And you only do it for how old they are, for
You just like a couple minutes until they can reset emotion. So it's not like, hey, go sit in the corner for 5 minutes. It's fine.
Well, what Hegel says that's important here is this young person has just learned to negate, to say no. And that is, because up to a certain point, everything is just, this is pie, this is asparagus, this is cream peas, this is a mess. You're just learning stuff. But all of a sudden, at a certain point, a child is able to say no and negate the situation. And Hegel thinks, wow, that is a significant leap in the growth of consciousness. Because it's at that point that you can imagine something other than the way things are. So that is a tremendous sudden change, right? But that's consciousness. And what happens next is the development of self-consciousness. Self-consciousness was what Ellie was talking about. I played a short video of her. She's got about 5 or 6 videos on Hegel. That's her specialty, Hegel, and up through contemporary French philosophy and things of that sort. She's really good if you get interested in the complexity associated with what's going on, even in modern Europe. But self-consciousness, let's try that again. Self-consciousness arrives when there's another self that you meet. So you don't really find yourself in a war to the death. That's a metaphor, right? In fact, it's abstract enough that you can think about this as inside of yourself. You have in itself, my subject side, remember? I'm aware of myself as the subject, and then I think of myself as all of these concepts that I think of as who I am, right? And remember, I'm not really those. I'm this self over here that's thinking about myself. And so I have 2 parts of me that are engaged in this constant interaction or dialectic. Perfect example, there's a candy bar, and I like those candy bars. I should eat that candy bar. But then inside my own head, I get this little angel, a blue angel in this case, right? That says, you should not eat the candy bar, it's bad for you, right? Then the red angel says, oh, you've eaten thousands of these before, go ahead, it's not going to hurt. It's just one more candy bar and you like them. But then the blue angel, says, but you want to live now. You don't want to be that old guy that says, boy, if I knew I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself. No, you actually should take better care of yourself so you do get to live that long, right? So I have this dialogue in my head going on between me and me, arguing over whether I should eat the candy bar or not. You go through this kind of thing every time you make a decision about what you should do, yes?
Isn't that like your idea or your ego?
We could say that the 2 of them are part of my ego. I'm both of these. These are both part of me, arguing with myself over what I should do next, right? About everything, Should I put the left slipper on first or the right slipper, You're constantly making these decisions, right? And you think of yourself as both of them, right? Might even have multiple sides to the point of view. Should I, take out an insurance policy? But my dad was an insurance salesman and said, never, invest in these. They're terrible investments. They never pay off, right? The premium gets so high by the time you're almost dead, that, you give them up. And so the insurance companies just make money off of everybody that gives them money for their insurance policy, right? Nobody ever really gets, the benefit, right? Yeah, you can have multiple individuals all in your head. In fact, I half wonder about the persons who have 16 different personalities. They count. There's different ones. And
What's that movie? Split. That's the one. Have you ever seen it? Such a good movie.
but the thing is, the person is really all of those
Yeah.
in
that's
one, right?
Scary.
And I think Jim Carrey, the actor, Jim Carrey, am I saying his name right? He's famous for, being the Grinch and, all these other
The
characters.
Mask.
He can do all kinds of characters. And finally he got old enough that somebody said, aha, so who's the real Jim Carrey? And he goes, aha, the Jim Carrey that, I've always, tried to be was just another character. Right? I was just pretending to be that guy. And when you get into this kind of interesting dialogue about who you are, it makes sense to me to think, I'm not really a teacher. I'm just pretending to be a teacher. I'm acting as if I read up on what teachers are supposed to do, how they're supposed to be interesting, etc. And I try to do those things.